Hey guys, Casey here, Lions Den Investments and Reviews. I'm just shooting a video today about the markets, the crash that we just had in cryptos. Yes, I think it was yesterday or the day before I shot a video, and I was talking about the basically the trajectory in price with Theta and T-Fuel, and I thought Theta and T-Fuel were going to go up in price based off of that ABC correction that I was talking about. So if you're not familiar with that and you're watching this for the first time, go back, watch that last video. I'll put a link up here somewhere for you. But I was talking about the ABC correction and how we were going to finish that ABC correction out and then go back into a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the Elliott wave, 5-wave impulse for Theta and T-Fuel. And lo and behold, after I shot that video, the very next morning, Bitcoin crashes down to like 31,000. Theta and T-Fuel turned around and went with it. So I was wrong on my technical analysis. And the reason for that is nobody saw the fundamentals of what happened playing out in the markets, okay? And again, this is why technical analysis is not always 100%. And you really can't, you have to be very careful about coming out and making predictions and time frames on technical analysis. And I'm guilty of that, just like everybody else to a certain extent. And so anyways, I just want to come out and tell you guys, yeah, I was wrong on Theta and T-Fuel and where I thought those were going. Ultimately, long term, I still think we're heading there, because if you ask yourself the big question of, are we finished in this bull run? Is this bull run over for the entire market? I still stand by what I said before and I've been saying for the past year. No, I don't think it's over. Okay, we're going to be heading much, much higher over the next 6 to 7 months. Now, does that mean Bitcoin's going to head higher over the next 6 to 7 months? I don't know. The reason for this is because if you look at what, for instance, Brian Brooks was saying yesterday, okay, and if you don't know who Brian Brooks is, he used to be the comp controller over the U.S. currency. He was also part of Coinbase, okay, they're legal advisors. So he's got a lot of expertise and knowledge in the blockchain space. And what he was saying was that the reason why you're seeing, margin calls on Bitcoin and a lot of short positions expiring and people liquidating Bitcoin is because the proof of work algorithm for consensus on blockchains is being phased out. Okay. Now, I think there is some truth to that, because all you have to do is look at Ethereum. All right. What did Ethereum do? They moved from proof of work to proof of stake. And so you're starting to see that with more and more projects going into a proof of stake instead of proof of work. The reason for that, again, from a mining perspective, is it reduces the consumption on energy. Okay. So your energy costs are not as high when you're not just solely relying on a mining consensus algorithm or a proof of work. So that's why it's being phased out. And Bitcoin, honestly, as of yesterday, it was under direct attack from the big institutions, again, on the margin calls and shorting options that are out there. And then not to mention you had China out here coming out again saying that they're banning Bitcoin, right? Well, guys, again, this is all FUD. It's fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Okay? It was, to me, all it spelled out was capitulation or just basically, contraction in price. That's all it was. Again, a shakeout. And why? Because the big banks, the institutions, they want what you have. So you see, this is where blockchain is different from traditional markets as well, because with traditional markets, you got stocks. Okay? Stocks have a they can be created out of nowhere. They can be printed up out of thin air through money, right? Like to create new shares, for instance. Okay, so there's no stipulation or limit on how many shares Amazon, say, could produce. They have to get all this authorized through the SEC and all that. There is a legal process in place for that. But they, throughout a decade or 20 years, Amazon really doesn't have any limit, or AT&T doesn't have any limit on how many shares they could create in that time. With blockchain, for instance, like on Bitcoin, there's only 21 million tokens that will ever be created, right? So there's a limited supply. And some of these other projects have similar distribution of tokens set up so that once it hits that supply, it's done. Okay. Because of that, it offers a better hedge on all the money printing that's taking place from traditional markets. I guess where I'm going with that is, when you've got supply and demand economics at play like this, especially with like proof of stake versus proof of work. Proof of stake, again, is a lot more cost efficient, and it's going to help, especially when it comes to transaction times for blocks being produced and new tokens being minted. It's going to speed up that process and make it more efficient. But again, it's supply and demand economics, and if you got that kind of stuff set up versus a traditional market, the more money the government prints up, the more you're going to see the blockchain space as a whole increase in value. Okay, so keep that in mind. And for people who are still holding on to, say, like Theta and T-Fuel, another thing I mentioned in my last video was going with a more long-term strategy when we take these dips like this. So you can buy up the dips, right? And that's how people build massive wealth, is you always want to buy in the red. You don't want to buy in the green, okay? Especially from like a day trader's perspective. If you're always trying to chase the trade, buying in the green, you're going to lose money, okay? So what you want to do is, for a longer term strategy, when you see these dips like this, you want to go in and buy on the red. So people that bought in this crash, this last dip, if they bought in there, they're going to create massive amounts of money and wealth moving into the future. Much more so than, say, somebody who bought Bitcoin at the top when we, made our move up to like $60,000. So yeah, you always want to buy in the red. Okay. Another thing you can do for long-term strategies, like I was saying, is you can join like a staking program where you essentially are getting paid passive income in cryptos. Okay. And I want to talk about that as well in later videos. And I'm going to take you in and show you like how you can do that with some of these projects. Okay. Because now we're getting into like decentralized finance platforms. Okay. That's what they do, is they help you create this passive income, become like a lender provider or something like that. I also said I was going to talk about ICP real quick. So I'll just kind of give you a short intro into ICP real quick because I don't have my laptop in front of me at the moment. But I'll tell you what they're claiming they can do with ICP and what my thoughts are on that. And then I'll cover more in depth, like from their website at a later date, and talk to you about the protocol behind that. So ICP is called basically Internet Computer Protocol. I believe that was the name of it, Internet Computer Protocol. ICP, what they do, or what they're claiming they can do, is they can decentralize the entire internet, okay, through their protocol. And this deals with replacing TCP/IP, all right, which is basically the standard for IP addresses and how computers talk to each other inside a network. So when you set up, say, like a conventional network system in a centralized environment, you have to have different computers set up that, talk to your network. So they'll talk to the databases, the servers that are in the data centers, and all that stuff operates on IP addresses, okay? Like, take your laptop, for instance, that you have right now in your office. That computer has an IP address associated with it, okay? You can go into the command prompt, type in the network command ipconfig/all, and it's going to give you your subnet mask for your networks, your IP address for your computer, all of that, okay? And all that stuff is set up on IP addresses through the TCP/IP protocol for internet addresses. Websites work similar, okay? So like when you go to www.amazon.com, for instance, that is it's an address, okay, that you're typing in on the internet, but what lies behind that is an IP address as well. So everything that's on the internet and as far as computers talking to each other on networks is set up through TCP IP protocol. Now, ICP is claiming that they can replace that protocol. Well, here's my thoughts on that, and this is why I've yet to see it, because quite frankly, they haven't. I mean, they may have done something similar in a test environment for decentralizing a part of an internet, but they don't have anything really out there in live production right now that is doing that that I've seen. So if you have seen something like this, you know, go ahead and share your information with me in the comments below, or thoughts on that, or what you've heard so far in regards to ICP being able to, you know, come out with something that actually works in a real world use case, because I haven't seen it yet. You know, I browsed through their website the other day, read the articles and descriptions of like what they're trying to do. And here's the other thing. What they're doing right now is connecting to 48 different data centers across the United States, which gives it a distributed type environment for computing resources. But again, think about your data centers, okay? Those are centralized in nature. So is it really distributed? Technically it is, because you've got 48 different data centers in different locations that they're talking to and using computing resources with. Okay, so it's kind of got that mesh network topology included in it, so it could be decentralized in that nature. But you know, again, it's like, is it really distributed, or is it centralized because you're relying on data centers, and it's not necessarily a blockchain? Okay, if that's what you're doing, and that's how you're transmitting and transporting data back and forth, then that has nothing really to do with the blockchain. Again, I'll go into this later in another video and really start peeling back the layers for you on it, so we can find out together, like if it is in fact distributed or centralized in nature. Because even if it is centralized, guys, that's not a bad thing. Reason being is I've been reading a lot of information on blockchain solutions as an architect, right? And I'm actually thinking about taking my blockchain architect certification here coming in June, because I want to learn more about the design process on the back ends of these blockchains and how you actually come up with solutions to fix real world problems in blockchain. So I'm going to be doing that here in July, and that's where I'm going to commit a lot of my time, energy, and focus, you know, outside of work, because I still have a day job. But that said, you know, the more I find out about how to create solutions within blockchain for enterprise corporations that are centralized, the more I realize that it's not so bad to have a centralized blockchain that's not fully distributed, because that's what a lot of the companies are looking for right now, is blockchain solutions that talk to a centralized network as well as bridge the gap and make it distributed at the same time, but maybe just for certain use cases on smaller data. Okay, because blockchains as a whole, guys, were not designed through consensus algorithms for holding large amounts of data. Okay, they just were not designed for that. It would make it too slow. Scalability would be a big problem as well. And then you deal with other things like non-functional properties, which would be like your integrity, security, transparency, that kind of stuff, right? So, yeah, those are just my initial thoughts on ICP. The other thing is, if you replace TCP IP protocol, you're going to have to find a way to basically replace the entire operating system for Microsoft. Because if you look at every operating system on computers, it's either Linux based for like your Apple computers, or it's going to be DOS, the Microsoft operating system. And TCP/IP uses the DOS command prompt, environment for communicating with IP addresses. So if you replace TCP/IP protocol with another one, that protocol is going to have to communicate with the DOS operating system as well. How do you do that without completely getting rid of every single operating system out there, that is basically controlled and monopolized through, companies like Apple and Microsoft? So those are my initial thoughts on ICP. That's really all I had for today's video. Are we still in a bull market? I would still stand by what I've said all along. Yes. And right now, if you got some dry powder on the sidelines, I would be buying. That's what I'm doing. And I also have staking programs that I'm involved with through Theta and Gpool. And I'll be shooting videos later on that as well. So if you ever want to stake your Theta or T-Fuel, you're going to know how to do that. So if you guys like the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It helps with the algorithm. And as usual, these markets go up and down. It's very volatile, but that's what builds wealth. And if you want wealth, and you want to build wealth, you can't have any fear. So fear nothing, my friends. Till next time, I'll talk to you later.